There's a kind of peace we all crave, not the kind that comes from silence or solitude, though those help, but the kind that remains steady even when life is anything but quiet. It's the kind of peace that doesn't tremble in the face of disappointment. The kind that stays intact when someone misunderstands you, when your plans unravel, when things don't go your way. You may have caught glimpses of it in others, or perhaps felt it in brief moments within yourself. It's not dramatic or flashy. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's subtle, quiet, steady, like a still lake that reflects the sky without distortion, no matter how heavy the clouds. There are people like that. People who don't seem fazed by setbacks, who listen more than they speak, who smile even when others complain, who forgive what others hold on to. They're not passive. They're not suppressing anger. They're not numb. No, they've simply learned a different way of being. They've made a quiet decision to stop reacting to everything and start living from within. They've learned to act as if nothing bothers them. That might sound like a performance, but it's not. It's a shift. It's a decision to value inner peace more than temporary righteousness, to protect your clarity more than your pride. It's the work of a person who knows how precious their energy is and how easily it gets scattered when we hand it over to every passing irritation. I once heard someone describe it like this: the wise become like water, still when they can be, moving when they must. Think about water. It flows when there's space. It holds still when there's nowhere to go. It doesn't resist the rock. It simply moves around it. It adapts, but never loses its essence. That's the kind of strength we're talking about, not resistance, but resilience. Not control, but conscious presence. For a long time, I didn't understand this. I thought acting like nothing bothered me meant suppressing feelings, putting on a front, being above it all. That's not it. That's avoidance, and avoidance creates pressure. Pressure eventually explodes. What I came to realize is this: the real shift happens not when you ignore your emotions, but when you stop living inside them. You acknowledge them, and then you choose something else. Not out of denial, but out of wisdom. Let's be honest. The world will not stop giving you opportunities to react. People will say things they shouldn't. Life will take things before you're ready to let go. Your expectations will be disappointed not once, but over and over again. And every single time you'll be invited into a familiar loop. Take it personally, get upset, explain yourself, retaliate, prove your point, justify your feelings. On and on it goes. That's the cycle most people live in without even realizing it. But what if you didn't? What if you saw the loop and stepped aside? What if you paused even just for a breath and asked yourself, is this worth my peace? And more often than not, the answer would be no. It really wouldn't be worth it. Not your time, not your sleep, not your mood, not your clarity. There's no medal for being right in every argument. There's no prize for making sure people understand you completely. There's no secret reward for taking offense quickly and holding onto it tightly. All those things just drain you. They take you out of alignment with yourself. It took me a long time to understand that acting as if nothing bothers you isn't about pretending, it's about protecting. Not defensiveness, not stubbornness, but protecting your inner state from unnecessary disturbance. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're learning to choose what truly deserves your energy. And most things don't. It's almost funny in a way. The more deeply you begin to understand yourself, the less you need to prove anything to anyone. The quieter you become inside, the less you crave validation. The less you need to argue, the less you need to interrupt. The less urgent it feels to fix, explain, or manage every situation. You begin to live in a different rhythm, not slower, necessarily, but steadier. People may not understand this at first. They might even misunderstand your calm as detachment, but that's okay. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this so that when your head touches the pillow at night, there's peace inside you, not because everything went your way, but because you didn't let everything pull you away from yourself. It's not easy. It takes intention. It takes practice. but it begins in very small moments. You get cut off in traffic. You're tempted to yell or mutter something under your breath, but you don't. You choose stillness. Someone says something that stings. You feel that heat rise in your chest, but instead of replying right away, you breathe, you wait, you decide if the response is worth your time, and more often than not, you find it isn't. Not because you're weak, but because you're free. And that's the deeper truth here. When you stop letting everything bother you, you're not becoming a doormat. You're becoming liberated. You're no longer living in reaction to the world. You've remembered that you have a choice, always, even when things hurt, even when it's unfair, even when no one else is staying calm, you can. This doesn't mean you won't feel. Of course you will. Life is full of moments that stir us, shake us, reach us at our core. But acting as if nothing bothers you means you won't live inside that disturbance. You'll feel it, yes, but you won't feed it. You'll acknowledge it, then release it. And in that practice, you begin to cultivate something stronger than any temporary irritation, a lasting peace. A grounded presence, a quiet strength. You start to carry yourself differently. You stop rushing to respond. You listen more closely. You smile more gently. People feel it. They don't always know what it is, but they feel safer around you. More settled, less anxious. That's the ripple effect of inner calm. You don't just keep it for yourself. You offer it to the world silently by the way you show up. This is the beginning of a different kind of life, not one where everything is perfect, but one where you are no longer disturbed by every imperfection. And that, quietly, is where the real transformation begins. Here's a quiet truth that most people overlook. You don't have to take everything personally. It sounds simple, even obvious, but consider how often this subtle mistake runs your life. A delayed message, a short reply, a comment that lands wrong, a friend who forgets to include you, a coworker who disagrees, an opportunity that slips away. How quickly these small moments become heavy weights. How quickly your thoughts turn inward spinning stories of rejection, disrespect, or failure. And before you even realize it, your peace has been stolen by something that might have had nothing to do with you at all. This is the hidden cost of living on emotional autopilot. When we let our sense of peace be shaped by the behavior of others, we give away our power in small, constant doses. We allow the outside world to write the script for our inner world, and slowly, without meaning to, we begin to live in reaction instead of intention. But there's another way. When you act as if nothing bothers you, you begin to make a radical shift. Not in how you pretend to feel, but in how you choose to interpret what happens. You begin to step back from the automatic assumption that everything that goes wrong is a reflection of you. You stop assigning meaning where there may be none. You begin to soften the sharp edge of ego that always wants to be right, recognized, and in control. And in that space, something truly transformative opens up, clarity, because here's what's really going on. Most of what disturbs you isn't about what's happening, it's about what you make it mean. Someone doesn't respond to your message. Instantly, you feel dismissed. Someone questions your idea in a meeting. You feel disrespected. Someone shares an opinion different from yours. You feel unseen. But pause, what if none of those things were actually true? What if the delay had nothing to do with you? What if the disagreement came from care? What if the silence meant the other person was struggling, not ignoring? So much of what bothers us comes from that moment of interpretation, the story we attach to the event. And more often than not, that story is based on old wounds, outdated fears, and an overactive need to be validated. But when you learn to catch yourself in that moment, when you learn to pause before the story spins out, you begin to reclaim something precious, perspective. Perspective is not about avoiding pain. It's not about pretending things don't hurt. It's about developing the wisdom to ask better questions. Instead of, why did they do this to me? You ask, what does this stir in me and where does that come from? You start to notice the patterns. Maybe it's the fear of not being enough, the need to be liked, the desire to be understood. When you see those threads, you start to unravel the tight knot that binds your reactions. You stop reacting to what's in front of you and start responding to what's actually within you. This is emotional maturity, the willingness to sit with discomfort without assigning blame, the courage to face your own assumptions instead of defending them, and perhaps most importantly, the humility to admit that not everything is about you. It's strange, really. The more you grow inwardly, the less you need to be right, the less you need to be validated. You become more curious, less controlling, more open, less offended. You start to develop what can only be called a kind of inner spaciousness. Things can enter your awareness without knocking you off center. Criticism can come, and instead of collapsing, you listen. Disappointment can arrive, and instead of resisting, you reflect. Even anger can visit, and instead of lashing out, you ask what it's trying to tell you. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful in a quieter, more grounded way, because now your energy isn't leaking out in a dozen unnecessary directions. It's not being drained by every irritation, every judgment, every fear. You've become the gatekeeper of your own experience. You've learned that just because something is loud doesn't mean it's important. Just because it's urgent doesn't mean it's true. And just because it hurts doesn't mean it deserves your reaction. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is nothing. Not out of avoidance, but out of clarity. You don't reply to the provocation. You don't engage the drama. You don't defend your worth. You simply choose to stay grounded in what you know is real. And in doing so, you protect your peace like a sacred flame, not because you're afraid of conflict, but because you've stopped feeding what no longer serves you. That's the deeper meaning of acting as if nothing bothers you. It's not denial. It's not emotional suppression. It's choosing discernment over drama. It's honoring your energy as something sacred. It's trusting yourself enough to pause, reflect, and respond with intention instead of reflex. And this takes practice. At first, it feels unnatural. You'll still feel the urge to react, defend, explain. But little by little, you begin to notice the space between trigger and response. And in that space, you find choice. Real choice. The choice to let go of the small fight, so you can win the bigger one, the one for your inner peace. The people who master this aren't indifferent to life. Quite the opposite, they're deeply attuned to it. But they've trained themselves not to be taken hostage by it. They've learned to sit with their feelings instead of being ruled by them. And they've learned that stillness is not weakness, it's wisdom. We're not taught this in most places. We're taught to stand our ground, to defend ourselves, to speak up always, immediately. And sometimes that's necessary, but often it's not. Often, the deeper strength is in the stillness. In the ability to stay with yourself when everything around you is calling you away from center. So when someone offends you, pause. When someone disappoints you, reflect. When something unexpected happens, breathe. And then ask, what does this stir in me, and do I want to be stirred by it? That question alone can change everything. Because what you'll find over time is that most of the things that once triggered you no longer even touch you. The storm can still rage, but your roots have gone deeper. And in that stillness, you begin to find not just peace but presence. The ability to be fully here, fully alive, fully aware without being tossed around by every emotion, every opinion, every misunderstanding. This is how you begin to live differently, not from the surface, but from depth, not from reaction, but from intention, not from fear, but from clarity. It's not about acting like nothing bothers you because you don't care. It's acting like nothing bothers you because you do care about your well-being, your growth, your presence, and your power. And that choice made again and again begins to shape a life that is no longer ruled by the outside world, but rooted in the quiet strength of your own inner clarity.